I'm some dumb white trash kid from Indiana, right? And I'm sitting here half the time going, how the hell did I get here? And when are they going to find out I do not belong here? Like, when are they going to throw me out, right?
Did you become a little bit more of a dick to the people at work because you had all this job security now?
No.
I had another guy that wanted us to put a block of lead in one of the wings of the lower wings of the guitar, like the ones behind me right here, because he wanted it to, when he let go of it, he wanted it to go up like it was just like, no, we're not doing that. Darrell was kind of that way. And I might be mistaken on my timeline, but I'm pretty confident that like his MLs had Floyd's before MLs were offered with Floyd's.
No, right? That's very correct, actually. He was modifying his MLs with Floyd's before they ever did it, before Dean ever did it.
Most of the guys that we deal with, huge rock stars, they're all pretty cool. I'd say 98.5% of them are pretty cool, right? Are they dicks? Sure. But it's prety few and far between, and of course we have an unfair advantage because we're giving them free shit.
Hey, this is Party Like a Rockstar podcast, and I'm your host, Joel. Today's episode is brought to you by Misha's Kind Foods. They're an LA-based small business making the world's finest non-dairy cheese on the market today. They're lactose-free, paleo, keto, kosher, Parev, and 100% vegan. If you like what you see, check out the next video. If you like this video, please subscribe and like by clicking the little round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or our other guests on the show, go to joelrohde.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle is Joel Rohde. If you haven't already read my book, Memoir of a Roadie, it's now available through Amazon and paperback Kindle or as an audiobook. I hope you enjoy the show. There you are.
All right. There we go.
What up, this guy?
What's up, homie?
All right, bro.
We surprise you?
Yes, very much so.
Have you had better surprises in life?
Oh, I'm sure he has.
This was pretty good.
It's pretty good. All right, I'll take it. Chris Cannella has played guitar in bands N17, Rorschach Test, Autumn's End, and Deicide. He's worked with Queensrÿche, Prong, and Gorgoroth. Behind the scenes, he's worked artist relations and product management for ESP and Fender. He's currently the director of artist relations, experiential marketing, I don't know what that means, and product management at Armadillo Enterprises. Armadillo manufactures and distributes Dean guitars, Luna guitars, and DDrum. Sorry.
DDrum.
Yeah. Joshua Maloney is my second guest. He was the director of artist relations for Dean Guitars for 24 years and recently started his own marketing company called Malco Enterprises. He specializes in celebrity appearances and product endorsements. Current cool clients of Malco include NASCAR and Hex.com. He's also the singer of the cover band Pitbull. I messed it up. I tried to get excited for you. Pitbull Toddler. Is Chris one of these celebrities that you get people to pay to see?
Well, the problem is nobody can afford him.
Naturally.
Appearance fees. I've tried. I've done my best, but we're still working on it.
I figured start with a bit of fun. So I was looking at your resume, Chris, and I saw that you worked at Hot Topic back in the day. So my question to you is, do you miss Hot Topic? What is a planogram?
Okay. Well, that was in the mid 90s. So when I was on tour a lot with N17, they'd let me come and go. I guess when you're in your 20s and you're, kind of traveling and playing in a band, it's a great place. And a planogram is basically how you design a store, how you lay it out, where the merchandise goes across all the stores. So it's the store layouts.
I think that was called Spencer's back then, wasn't it?
No, wasn't it? Spencer's was Universal, wasn't it?
Yeah. I didn't know they had Hot Topic that long. I'm being serious. I'm not being funny.
Yeah. There was only one in Phoenix during that time. From in 1995, there was one in Phoenix and one in Tucson, and that was it. They started in California, but they were definitely different because they were privately owned that time before the Gap bought them and all that kind of stuff. So
I can't believe I've known you this long and never knew that. It's fucking crazy, man.
You want to hear one even farther? We'll go even farther back. fraud investigations. So I love stories and stuff. Do you have any good stories from fraud investigation days?
Actually, nothing too good, except for when one time we ended up getting the account for, out of all people, Daniel Carver.
Okay.
So we had to and at the time he was at the head of the KKK.
Oh, okay.
So we had to call him up, and we were investigating him because he owed like thousands upon thousands of dollars on credit card bills, and it was possible fraud. And I'm not going to say it on here, but his answering machines were a hoot. Let's just say that.
Yeah. What do you think the credit
Crazy.
card fraud was? It was like African American porn or something.
Totally.
Well,
It definitely wasn't dry cleaning. I mean, you know.
I remember when I was in school and they were talking about, not to like focus on KKK, we'll move forward quick, but they were talking about the guy who was running it and just how he wasn't that bright. And it was sort of like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. And they were happy to leave him there because they didn't know who could take over next. And it was an anthropology class. So it was an interesting discussion. And sometimes you let things stay where they stay because it's better for all.
Oh, yes. He was definitely, let's just say, not the brightest candle in the box, you know.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm astonished.
Yeah. What kind of music do you think that guy likes? I bet you it's
rap.
Like what did you say? Rap?
Yeah.
Rap?
Rap. Yep.
Yeah. Like hip hop.
Yeah. So you two guys, did you used to work for Josh, Chris, or you guys always
worked together?
You worked together.
Yeah.
Right
outside
of colleagues.
Yeah, and we were friends before I even worked there.
Yeah.
And so I cheated a little. So looking into another interview you did, Chris, you were saying how you just always had a really strong interest in the making of the guitar rather than playing, just playing the guitar. And what do you think that really sparked it for you, that where you wanted to know what sounds good with what and making it and making better and checking and all these kinds of things? And are you the same feels, Josh? Were you in the same boat of wanting to know the intricacies and being able to change sounds and stuff? Or
I mean, I think I can speak for Chris and myself, and Chris, feel free to interject, of course. But I think every musician, specifically guitar players, are that way, and not necessarily. I mean, I know a lot of guitar players who can't make adjustments, neck adjustments, or Floyd adjustments, whatever, and that's fine because a lot of them are amazing players, and that's what they focused on. But I think by the nature of the instrument, you're always chasing that sound. So I think just by design, you kind of get into the pickups and the wood, what wood sound certain ways. And man, I really like the tone of, let's say, like one of my favorite records of all time was Appetite for Destruction, still is, right? And so I went on a tone hunt when that record came out. I'm like, how, man, Slash's guitar sounds amazing. Okay, he's using a Les Paul, cool. He's using a Marshall Silver Jubilee. Right now, in those days, we didn't have the internet yet. So you had to read, Metal Edge magazine or Guitar Player or Guitar World or whatever it was. So I think for me personally, that, we're all players, right? So that's how we start. But going on tone chasing experiments led me by default and necessity to having to figure out, okay, well, a bolt-on sounds different than a set deck. Okay, what's a set deck? Set deck means it's glued in. So just by turning over stones, for me, I started to figure out the geometry of the guitar, scale length matters, tonal combinations. You just kind of figure it out. And then, if you need to eat, which we all do, I was lucky enough to move from Indiana, where I grew up, to Florida in '97. And at that time, Dean moved its headquarters to Tampa. So it all kind of lined up for me, and I needed a place to eat. A place to work. I needed to eat. I loved playing guitar, and they were cool with me going out and touring and doing gigs still. So it all just it was like dumb luck, quite frankly. It was hard work, but to get the opportunity was dumb luck for me. But like Chris said, I knew Chris in the business for a long time. Matter of fact, one of the things that you didn't talk about that I think is something we should talk about, quite frankly, is he worked with Eddie Van Halen, with EVH, which was huge, man. That was cool. So I think we all kind of figure out construction by design and by necessity, if you want to have certain tones and that kind of thing.
But did you work with Van Halen before you started doing rep stuff?
No, it was after.
Through Fender, right?
Yes. And back right when to make a long story short, right when he was, before he got sober, And when he went into rehab, we met a small amount of times. And then when he got out of rehab, he asked me to be the conduit between him and Fender. So I would be the product manager for his brand, but
Did
I
you
would
become
only...
a little bit more of a dick to the people at work because you had all this job security now?
No, actually, because one of the first things that happened when I started working, the first time I was on a phone call with Eddie Van Halen, I didn't know it. I was actually on a phone call. It came on my phone, dating myself a bit, on my BlackBerry, and it was the president of Fender and the number 2 of Fender. And I said, oh boy. And I was at a Slipknot show. And I was dropping off guitars to the guy in Slipknot, to the Jim Root in Slipknot at the time. And so I get to the phone, and they're like, hey, listen, Eddie's contract is about ready to be renewed, but he's made a stipulation that he will only speak with one person, and one person only. Doesn't want to deal with everybody in the company. He just wants his personal guy, a one phone call made and done. I was like, oh, well, great. Well, whoever it is, let me know. That's cool. And basically they said, well, he decided it was you. And I said, nope, I don't want it. So the guy's got a trail of dead behind him, 30 years long. I don't want to lose this. I just had a baby being born right then. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to lose my job here. I just got promoted. I'm just starting to move up the chain. And I was like, I just don't want to lose my job. And the president said, we promise you won't lose your job. We promise. And I was like, no, let me think about it. And then all of a sudden I hear Eddie's voice come on the phone. He's like, hey. And I was like, oh, crap. So he listened to me say that whole thing. And he starts laughing. He's like, listen, nothing's going to go wrong. This was on a Sunday. He's like, your flight's this Wednesday. I said, I haven't even thought. He's like, no, we already got your flight. We rented you a Challenger. So go fly in. Here's my cell phone number, and here's the key code to my property, and I'll see you Wednesday. Boom, that was it.
That's a good start.
Yeah, and it was great. And don't get me wrong. And then for the next 6 years, we never had a single argument. He was an absolute amazing human being, a wonderful friend, father, musician, brother. It was great. And we talked every week, so it was wonderful.
But you're not talking about guitar stuff. You're talking because you became friends, I assume.
Yeah, after a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We spoke to a lot of us.
I had on here the other day Sterling, who worked with Pantera.
Yeah, Winfield.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
Oh man, the stories are great. But it's also, it's not just the stories, it's the storytelling. It's the, Snake Sabo I always bring up because Snake came on a bunch of times. It's the storyteller. That guy can tell a story, man. At the edge of your seat, you don't even care, but it's how he tells it. And you're like, and then what?
When I was at ESP, I was talking to Snake quite a bit. And he is definitely one thing I like about that guy is he's doing it for the right reasons. He generally loves being in Skid Row the way it is. He doesn't care. He's not in for the money. He works for Doc McGee. He's made and he was just a funny guy, just outgoing and just laid back. I love talking with him.
Yeah. How long have you known him?
Just since I was at ESP. So let's say in the very beginning of 2014.
Okay.
So not that long.
Yeah. He's a good guy. He really is. So, not a lot of these guys are good guys. There's some dicks though, and those are the guys I try to focus to bring on. So back to you guys.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, doing the A&R gig. I mean, when I started with Dean, I was in guitar assembly and setup and QC and all that, and then moved through the ranks over the years. But I was always involved in the artist in some way, shape, or form, whether I was tweaking guitars for him or whatever, and then became the official artist relations director. But most of the guys that we deal with, I mean, huge rock stars, they're all pretty cool. I mean, I'd say 98.5% of them are pretty cool, right? I mean, are there dicks? Sure. But I mean, it's pretty few and far between, and of course we have an unfair advantage because we're giving them free shit. So they're like, oh, that's my guy. You know what I mean? Like, this dude's cool, so
but that's okay.
No, listen, I'm not mad about it, but I guess what I'm saying is, is that I'm not walking up after a show with 30 pick guards and albums going, hey dude, can you sign this? Right. I mean, which is fine, but we have a different relationship. But the guys that I've dealt with, the first question is, like with Dave Mustaine, for instance, right? I mean, I was Dave Mustaine's guy for 14 years. And the first thing is like, oh man, that guy's got to be such a dick. And it's like, he's really not. I mean, at least not to me, right? I mean, he's very particular. He's very to the point. You always know where you stand with the guy. And is he difficult? Yeah, he's a little bit difficult. But what person or rock star at that level can't be difficult at times, right? I mean, not overly difficult, but he knows what he likes, and that's that.
See,
And he's very
I
clear
think
about
there's
it.
a level of professionalism that you have to get that far ahead. And so you can be kind of a dick, people think, but it's like, no, you don't understand. This has to go this way, or it's not going to come up to my level, and
Right.
I'm not going to grow. So
Right.
call me what you will,
Right.
Well, and it's just
the driven guy is the one that gets ahead. And these guys, a lot of these guys, like Mustaine was a great example, Metallica, all these guys, they know what they need.
Right.
All right. They know what they want. And all you're really there to do is really help them and kind of, accommodate the needs. And yeah, some people may think they may be demanding, but I wouldn't say demanding. They have deadlines themselves. They have jobs to do. They have tools. They need their tools to do their job.
I wonder, and I'm not a guitar player. Okay. So this question might make it very clear, but I kind of imagine it's like a baseball draft. And these guys are like, I might go to Fender, might go to ESP. And you're like, no, come to us. We'll give you free tuition at your college.
I'll say no. I'll say no on that, just because the guys that try to play that, well, if you don't, if it doesn't work out for me over here, then I'm going to go over here. It's like, go. First and foremost, when, and Josh will agree with me on this one, the first and foremost thing that you want with somebody that's playing your instruments is that they love your instruments.
Sure. That's
their choice. And every company has a different formula. Not everybody's at war with each other either. We're all friends. I'm still friends with the guys at ESP. I'm still friends. We're friends with guys at Shenker. We're friends with, I'm friends with some of the guys over at Fender. There's no animosities. So these guys that are coming around, if you see the guys that are hopping, everybody knows who it is. And a lot of us will call each other up and say, dude, is that guy trying to call you too? Yeah. F that dude, man. Send him hiking. And me and Josh actually had that conversation a few times before we started working together.
Yeah. Is there any stories, and you don't have to mention the guy's name because it might be inappropriate, but are there any ones like that where they were hopping around and you guys all just flatlined them?
Oh, I would say at the time there were younger bands, the younger, let's just say, you know what I'm saying, Josh? A lot of the metalcore bands from back then, remember? They would start calling up me, they'd call you.
Yeah, or the best is we'd get emails that would say, I love your company's guitars. I would really love to endorse your company's guitars. What fucking company is this? What are you talking about? Or the best is that we get, sometimes I got where they forgot to change the brand to Dean from ESP or from Jackson or something, right? Right. Yes. It's like, oh, I love Dean's. I can't wait to play it. I'd really like to represent Jackson on stage. I'm like, well, fucking go do it. I mean, go ahead.
I'm a jack of all trades, man.
Right. And the best part for me, one of my favorite things, and this is somewhat sadistic, but when you get this a lot, it becomes kind of fun, at least for me. And maybe I'm the dick. Maybe, Dave Mustaine is a great guy and I'm the asshole. But at the end of the day, a guy would call up, oh man, I love Dean, man. I really want to be on your artist roster. We do 100 shows, 150, whatever it was. Oh, that's awesome, man. Really? Okay. It gives me this whole dissertation. And it's like, awesome, man. What are you playing now? Well, I'm playing a Jackson. Well, fucking call Jackson then. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not me being an asshole, but it's like, if you love the brand so much, why don't you own one? Right. I mean, you'll take one for free from me, but you'll put your money down for a Gibson or a Jackson or a Fender or whatever it was. So those are always and that was kind of a conversation stopper at that point. It's like, well, I'm playing Jackson. Okay, well, have you called Jackson? Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, play what you love.
Right. I mean, that was, I don't know. That was, I always got a kick out of that stuff. I never got mad about it. I just thought it was funny. But to your question, there are some guys, and I think we went through them one day at lunch. I think a couple of years ago, Chris, where we had remember that?
Mount Punishmore.
Yeah, Mount Punishmore. Yeah. So we had like 5 guys that we all know. Like when Chris worked at ESP, when I was at Dean, when our product manager, Eric Stewart, was at AMS, when we had a sales manager that was at, Ibanez or whatever it was, we had these 5 guys and their name kept coming up like, oh yeah, that guy hit me up too. That guy hit me up too. So we created, I'm not going to mention any names. I mean, maybe I will as this goes on, but not right now. But we called it Mount Punishmore. And we had like our 4 or 5 guys that were just like, yep, oh my God. And it made for some Yeah, it made for some fun conversation.
Yeah, a bit of poking the bear. It doesn't hurt. Keeps the day going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I never gave him shit, but which is fun. But anyhow,
Yeah.
it was fun
There's
to talk
gotta be a
about.
few too where it's like, do you even play guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
and the thing is, and I think Chris, you can agree with this. The funny thing is that and this is not me being a dick. This is just a reality. The guys that do the least are the highest maintenance, or want to be the highest maintenance.
I believe
Right?
that.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Michael Shenker would email me if he needed something twice a year, and he's one of the most legendary guitar players of all time, right? But I'd hear from some guys who were doing, that were buying guitars at artist cost, doing 150 shows, that I'd hear from 20 times a month, and it's like, dude, so, and it's nothing against him, I get it, but it's just funny how that worked out. The biggest guys like Kerry King and Dave Mustaine and Vinnie Moore and Shenker and all these guys, they were next to no maintenance. I mean, they needed what they needed, and we had timelines, but it wasn't an everyday type thing, which I thought was they had other shit to do, I guess is what I was getting at.
And one of the things that you always try to remember, and it was one of the first lessons I learned when I started becoming an artist guy, was from an amazing guy over at Fender by the name of Mike Lewis, and he said, "What's more important, or what's bigger, the endorsement or the band? Because if the endorsement is bigger than the band, then the band is just going to try to do everything to make the brand make them more famous."
Like an infomercial almost.
Right. They're trying to have us be their catalyst.
Yeah.
They're riding our coattails, right? We should be riding theirs, in my opinion, right? And not to say, I want to be clear, not to say that, I mean, I took chances on baby bands all the time, and I think, Chris, you did too with ESP.
Oh yeah.
Right? Not to say that you have to be Megadeth, or you have to be Metallica, or you have to be.
And when you say you took a chance, so what does that mean? Does that just mean sending them a guitar, or does it mean endorsing them on your site? If they do something stupid, it falls back to you?
No. It's not for me. It wasn't that. It was okay. So you guys are playing, like, for instance, one of the bands that we worked with in the early days was a band called Attila, right? And I think they came back in the fold, but they were playing like skate parks and stuff when we took them on, and I loaded them up with guitars and drums and all kinds of stuff for free.
How did you find out about? Someone called you and said you got to listen to these guys, or how did they?
No, I was in those. Again, this is going back probably 10 years, but in those days, we were getting a lot of inbound stuff, but I was still very active on the outbound side. So I would look at touring sites and Polestar, and then I would look at, at that time YouTube was still early, and I would kind of keep my ear to the ground with what was happening. And at that time, Tampa Skate Park was hosting like a pro-am, and they ended up playing, and I happened to be there, and that was kind of dumb luck, but I was like, oh my god, these guys are killer. And so they weren't a huge band, but I mean, I loaded them up with free guitars, free drums, comped, because I could see something in them, like, wow, these guys are going to be huge, right? And they ended up they're a big band right now. So to be clear, I want to make sure that people understand, and young bands keep hope that you can get the deal if the circumstances right, your attitude's right, and you have a feeling that this band is going to be a big band. And the same thing goes for record labels, and it's the same philosophy. It's just on guitars, we have budgets we're held to, at least I did, and I was like, how am I going to spend this money? And that's when I say take a chance. Like, okay, I'm going to put out $3,000 on this band, giving them free gear,
right,
or more.
And also, just to add on to that, Josh, one thing that you're taking a chance with also, and you can attest to this, is our time. So we're spending a lot of time answering the phones, listening, doing what we can, to get them what they need, and push them on our sites to show that we believe in them. And that is very valuable. And it's not to sound arrogant. It's not to sound like, we're superstars. We only have so many days or so many hours in a week, and we all have personal lives too.
Sure.
So,
and the companies are a lot smaller. I mean, not the Fenders and Gibsons, of course, are huge, but like, the Deans and ESPs and some of the other companies. I mean, Dean only has 48 employees, right? And they have one A&R guy. One. I mean, it was me before. It's Chris now. But I mean, it's not like we have staff. We don't. It's just us, right? So, there's this big misconception that it's this ivory tower and this huge like GM style deal. It's not. I mean, even Paul Reed Smith is not. I mean, it's a big company, but it's not like this massive, corporate thing. So, it's an interesting take on it. but it's very rewarding when you take a chance on a band like on a baby band like that, and it ends up becoming something really special. It's like, wow, this
Right.
is awesome, or you get pissed when they split, like, you son of a bitch. No, but
Yeah.
Send me back my guitar.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, maybe. What innovation has one of the musicians asked you to make on a guitar, let's say, that was a custom model or something, that you were like the most blown away by? Do you think that was like made a big difference?
Man,
Gosh, that is a really tough one.
that is.
If this is amateur hour questions, you can say so.
Well, no, it's not. It's not that, because we've gotten some outlandish requests, but you also have to remember that from a guitar manufacturer's perspective, you have to keep the integrity of your brand.
Yeah.
Right. So, we had a guy. What was one? Oh, I remember one. Somebody wanted I can't remember who it was. Somebody wanted a custom V, and they wanted the pickups to load from the back of the guitar, which is, you have to re-engineer the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we're just not doing that. I had another guy that wanted us to put a block of lead in one of the wings of the lower wings of the guitar, like the one behind me right here, because he wanted it to, when he let go of it, he wanted it to go up like it was just like, no, we're not doing that. And different scale lengths and so because the thing is that if the person's going to endorse, and that's the other thing, the artist endorses the product. It's not the other way around. I mean, it is, but Nike promotes the fact that they have Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan, he likes his sneakers. He endorses the brand, right? Yeah. That's how it works. And I think it's misconstrued a lot of times, but you have to keep the integrity of what the instrument is. So it's like, hey, I love your ML guitar, which is the one right back here. Can you redesign the body and make the one side? No, we can't. This is what this is, right? It's like going to Ford and going, hey man, can I get a Mustang station wagon? No, you can't. I mean, you can now because they made that stupid electric thing. But
that's not a Mustang. Not a Mustang.
No,
I'll refuse to accept it.
Agreed. But my point is that it's keeping brand integrity, right? I mean, right. And so we've gotten some requests, but a lot of times they don't see the light of day because, one, it's too time consuming and laborious for the company to do for literally no return, and two, you have to keep brand integrity, right? I mean, and so I've told people before, if you find somebody to do that for you, go do it, right? Like I'm not mad at you, go do it, but we're just not going to do that,
right?
And I can't remember. We've heard some stupid shit over the years, bro, and I can't remember them all right now.
Well, I can tell you one of the stupid shits that we've had. You and I both had to deal with him, and he was a guy on Mount Punishmore who would tell the world that he was the fastest guitar player ever. You know what I'm talking about. Oh, and so we had a few of those guys, but we've also with the ingenuity, a lot of guitarists. With not everybody's like an Eddie Van Halen who comes up with his own innovations. Because he was the exception to the rule. The guy did so many things that where Les Paul used to consider him the younger him. Just he was like a Les Paul himself, and very few people are like that. So, but we've had a lot of cool technology come to us. Evertunes, FU Tone, all the Floyd all the different Floyd things that they're doing now. Seymour Duncan pickups, Fishman Fluence, that stuff comes to us. So generally, the artists, most of the time, are just asking you to use some, personal elements into a common guitar. I think it's probably the best way to put it from my perspective.
Well, and I can say something else. An endorser that Dean has that I brought on toward the tail end of my tenure was Kerry King, right? And one of the things that we did for him, which is cool, we've done it before, but we really fine-tuned it for him, was his when you're playing, there's side markers on the top of the fretboard, so you can see, so you have to look over the neck, you can see it as you're from prone position. We put light up side dots in his guitar, so when he goes on a dark stage, he knows where he is because his side markers are lit up.
Yeah,
right,
and they're all LED.
Yeah, it's fiber optic. It's really cool.
Yeah,
and
so cool.
It's pretty innovative in that respect. And to Chris's point with like a guy like Eddie Van Halen, Darrell was kind of that way. and I might be mistaken on my timeline, but I'm pretty confident that like his MLs had Floyd's before MLs were offered with Floyd's.
No,
right?
that's very correct. Actually, he was
I mean, so
modifying his MLs with
right,
Floyd's before
right,
they ever did it. Before Dean
right.
ever did it.
Correct. So he took it upon himself to do that, like Eddie did with his Frankencaster that he gouged out and moved the pickups and did all that kind of stuff. So so it's interesting when the artist eventually they become this huge rock star. They do or they don't take it upon themselves to modify what you've already done, right? Because once it's in the market, there's nothing you can do about it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So so we get some pretty crazy requests, and a lot of times we have to say no. I'd say 1,000 to 1 that you say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've gotten some pretty. I mean, over the years, I mean, I wish I could recall them all, but we got some pretty crazy asks.
Yeah. Okay, so when I was first putting this podcast together, my friends have little kids now, and one of my friend's daughters in elementary school, and she said, you should ask every guest when they first felt famous. And so I ask each of you guys, when did you first feel famous? Now, fame's not a road you choose to pursue. You don't think you're famous, and I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. When was there a moment in your career as a pivotal point that made it special, that made you know you're on the right road, you like what you do?
I'll let you go
maybe
first.
jump on that one. Yeah, for me, I'm gonna say it's gonna seem funny, but it was when my wife was talking to her friends who don't listen to metal, don't know anything that I've done musically. At first I would say it was when one of my favorite bands opened up for me in Chicago, when Voivod opened up for my old band N17 in Chicago. I thought that was great. But the moment that I was like, all right, I'm on this trajectory for the long haul, was when my wife was talking to one of her friends. And rather than telling him what I did, she said, just Google his name. And that was it. So I was like, okay, all right, there you go.
I didn't know Voivod opened for N17. That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was at the Metro in Chicago.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I love that venue. So playing in those places, like in the late 90s, you're like, whoa, and these guys are opening up for us. It was like, and of course that night when they opened up for us, they ended up getting us extremely hammered after the show
No doubt.
to next level, not good, but every bit worth it.
Were you guys on tour, or was it just one show?
It was a one-off.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to play the next day, at least.
At
least you had to play the next day. Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
They didn't.
Shit. You poor bastards. I don't know. I mean, I know it was my job, but I think I don't know about the first time, and I just there's a lot of times. I think the one time that kind of blew me away, this was well into my career, was there was a time that, I mean, I can talk about this, I guess it doesn't matter. I got a fax, believe it or not, from Kiss's management, Doc McGee.
Sure.
And it was, Gene Simmons is interested in coming to Dean and having you guys build his axe bass. And I said, no shit, I'm a huge Kiss fan. Like, I mean, I love Kiss. And so I was like, wait, what? So they put an email in there, so I replied to it. They replied, and then Gene emailed me back. And I was like, holy shit. So he goes, do you have time for a call? And I'm like, yeah, I'll make some time. Right. So he, this is when Family Jewels was just on, and like, is around that time period. Right. So he calls and he goes, hey, Josh, it's Gene Simmons. Okay. How you doing, Gene? And so we got to talking, and he says, well, I'd love to have you come to the house and we can talk business. And I'm like, okay. He goes, when can you be here? I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. He goes, okay, great. Now, granted, he's in LA and I was in Tampa. So I booked my flight. I get out there, and I'd sent some bases ahead, and he gave me the address to his house, and the same thing. There's a little code by the gate. It opens up, and it's just like on TV. You drive up and there's this massive ass house.
What's the code?
I didn't see him. I don't remember, to be honest with you. And I think he moved, but I would tell you if I could remember. But
he's trying to sell his house, I think. The one in Vegas he's been trying to sell for like crazy, like 30, well, 40 million.
Yeah, Gene asked too much money for something, you don't say. But anyway, so he says, so I didn't realize it, but he was leaning up against the staircase that came down from his house. So I rented a car, and I pulled in, and I opened the door, and his dog comes out, and I'm playing with his dog. And I see him leaning up against the staircase, and he's like, in the typical Gene fashion. And I walk up, and he goes, "Man, that's a nice car. Is it yours?" And I said, "Gene, I was in fucking Florida yesterday, man. Like, this car's fast, but it ain't that fast." And he kind of laughed. He chuckled. So I'm sitting in his office, the one that you saw on TV, and it's like a museum, right? He had to take a call in the middle of our meeting, and there was like the demon boots lined up on the side and like all this Kiss shit everywhere. And I was thinking in my mind at the time, one, I was trying not to freak out. And two, I was thinking, man, if I could have like a Bill and Ted moment and go back to like 15-year-old Josh and be like, dude, check this out. In 20 years, right? You're gonna meet Gene Simmons house. And I got to meet Shannon, he's gorgeous in person, and spend the day. I literally spent the day with Gene. And I was like, I know this is my job, but I'm like, holy shit. And then to get calls from guys like Vinnie Paul and Dave Mustaine and be invited to their homes and, go to parties and be on video sets and do all this fun shit. And guys like Vince Neil and like all this fun stuff, it was like that to me. It wasn't even like a fame thing. It was just like, I'm some dumb white trash kid from Indiana, right? And I'm sitting here half the time going, how the hell did I get here? And when are they going to find out I do not belong here? Like, when are they going to throw me out? Right. So, getting to go to the Playboy Mansion and all these things that, I hate to say, I don't want to say normal people, but this is not a normal business that the insurance salesmen just don't get to do,
Yeah.
And so that it just happened repeatedly. That's what kept it so exciting. And so it was never boring. At least not for me. We always seem to have a good time.
It gets exhausting for sure.
It does get tiring.
But it's
for sure.
Never boring. There was so many.
But boo fucking who, man? I'm sure exhausted at the Playboy Mansion. Jesus, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get past it.
Yeah, Van Halen rehearsals, bummer.
Yeah.
Judas Priest rehearsals, bummer. But it does. There's a lot of give and take with it too. We've both been doing this for so long, and even when I was like doing Deicide and we were touring the world, and I got to play the biggest festivals on the planet, and wonderful guys, were still friends. But when you start realizing, and then when I was in touring with Autumn Zen and 17, and then as you get a little bit older and you have a family, then you start realizing that your time is much, much more valuable, and you have less and less of it. Mm-hmm. So when it was great, for the the last 3 years that I was in Deicide, it was they're wonderful guys. They're still my friends, but playing all this great stuff and then realizing that I'm home, less than 50% of the time that I'm alive. So it does get to be a little, you have to start balancing some stuff out.
So with the guys who come on a lot, I ask them like, what are some of the more fun shows that you did when you were performing? Do you guys have any good stories of like, how are we gonna play in this shithole?
Oh my gosh. Actually, I can say for me, I've done so many shows. I've played for so long. My first live concert with my first band at a real venue was in 1991. So 31 years ago. But I would say that the first thing that comes to mind was my very first show with Deicide. It happened to be in Holland at the Netherlands Death Festival. Thousands upon thousands of people there. And we flew in for the show. And for some reason or another, all three of us, me, Glenn, and Kevin, only brought one guitar each. And I just changed my strings. It was in great condition. I go up on stage. I have the opening solo to the first song in the entire set, and I break a string with a Floyd Rose on it, which is a floating tremolo. So needless to say, 8 to 12 seconds into the song, I break a string, have to run off stage. I changed the string in time for the second song, which is only 4 minutes later. Okay. And barely made it back for that. And I was like, just drenched in sweat and terrified, trembling, terrified after just my first moment with, arguably one of the three biggest death metal bands of all time, going back on stage and then having the front man, Glenn Benton himself, be like, "Oh, thanks, Chris, for ruining that one. Let's get this show started now. How about that?" Like, God, but it was trial by fire, Yeah. but it was great. I mean, it ended up being a great time. My wife's cousin, who's now my cousin, Danielle, he was a huge Deicide fan, so we got to go out to. He's from Tilburg, in Holland, and came out to the show for us. So that was really cool. That was a good moment. Got to share that first show with family.
You got any good ones with Pitbull Toddler where you're
Yeah, I mean, we have some there, but even before that, like I was in sign band. I mean, nothing to the level of what Chris got to, but we were more like we were just like a hard rock band. So we got to tour with like All American Rejects and like in the early 2000s, like that period of time.
What was the name of your band?
Flogging Molly. Tenspoke, like spokes on a wheel, like Tenspoke Indies, like INDIES.
Cool.
And we toured with like Flogging Molly and Something Corporate and All American Rejects, bands like that. And we were out with, I can't remember what band it was, and we played a place in Jacksonville called Jackrabbits, and the sewer backed up into the club, right? And we're probably like 2 songs in, and it smelled like a porta john on fucking fire, man. It was, I mean, everybody was like, what the fuck? And before it hit us, I thought, man, do we suck that bad? Because everybody's like, God damn, right? Like, bro, looking at each other, like, what the hell? And then like maybe 20 seconds later, the shit starts coming through like the grates on the floor, right? Like the drains.
Yeah.
And it smelled like, it was like, I mean, it was terrible. And
that
I'm
is
like,
a
holy
shit
shit, okay,
show.
cool. It was terrible, but the other it was nasty. But some of the fun stuff was like they did a dime bash in Dallas one year, and Ace Frehley was there, and he had just gotten sober, and he was really on this sober train and all that. So he stayed sequestered in his dressing room the whole time, and he came out and he was the headliner. Vinnie Paul actually played a couple songs with like some super group guys like Machine Head and some other stuff, and me, Jose, Phil Demmel, and like there's a couple other people. We got up and got to sing Rock and Roll All Night with Ace Frehley.
Nice,
right?
nice.
Which is really cool. And with the Pitbull Toddler stuff, like we've opened for Def Leppard, we've opened for Bret Michaels. We're just like a cover fun rock party band. So we just we're cheap and we're a hell of a lot of fun.
You got a big following though. I looked it up.
So yeah, well, we have an unfair advantage because our bass player, his name's Mike Calta. He's been the #1 morning drive talk FM jock in talk show host in Tampa for like 13 years.
Oh, okay.
So he broadcasts to a few 100,000 people every single day.
It's like, so we have a Motley Crue's album.
Yeah,
anyway, our album is coming out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about his show is it's 102.5 The Bone in Tampa, but that's only talk. So there's no music at all. So it's literally like an FM talk.
I can attest. I listen to the show every morning. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny as shit. And so he can push the show, and so he has his own legions of fans. I mean, I think it has very little to do with the band, quite frankly, because the band is fun, but we're just a fun party cover band. Like we don't write songs, we don't even care about writing songs. We just want to go there, play songs we love, get shit faced, meet people, and have a good time. So, but we have a bus.
You'll have to call
so
like
nice.
Bret Michaels and be like, "Hey, you need to write some new shit because we need some songs to play."
Yeah, well, he's like, you know what? I'm doing just fine on my stadium tour, there, buddy. Where are you playing tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but I will say one of the things I have learned in this business over the years, and I'm not just saying this because of the base of the show and your background, is that no one who hasn't been in the business will ever understand how many people it actually takes to put on a show and have a band on the road. That's number one. And there's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
And two, I got to be honest with you, and I say this with the most respect. I don't know why in the hell anybody would want to be on a road crew. I really don't. I mean, it's the hardest fucking job there is. It really is. Like I watch these guys at 8 in the morning and they're sweating their asses off. I'm like, why are you doing this?
Well, that's why Marcus Rafferty left us.
Yeah.
Well, now, he's on the other side now. Now he's playing guitar.
He's more interested in his makeup than his.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good, and good for him. It blows my mind how hard. Well, you guys are the first to show up and the last ones to leave. And I'm just like, man, you guys, road crews you have to legitimately love it. You have to, because if not, there's no fucking way you do it.
For me personally, I was a kid. So when you're a kid, you've got more energy. You don't have the family connections. You're not missing as much. You don't think what are you missing? You don't have anything. And then I think a lot of them, that is your family, are these guys. And so you're out there working, but not. The other thing is it's cool to be rubbing shoulders with some of these bands that you like. And it's like you're getting paid, but you also get to watch these guys for free every night. And if you weren't, I don't know, it'd probably be in some dive bar drinking. So I think that there's some of these elements, but it's a great way to grow up, and being a roadie is a damn good job. It's cool. It's just you got to climb those ranks because it's hard ass work when you're.
I'm gonna say on top of that what you just said, and to continue on what Josh was saying too, is that whether because I've been on the stage, I've been the guy, and I've also been the guy as the AR guy. But let me tell you, the greatest guitar techs and the greatest roadies on the planet are, if you're an AR guy for a brand or a guitar company or whatever it is, that is your first go-to, even more so than the artist, because they tend to know more than the artist does.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are putting it back together every day. They're the ones that are on the front line, seeing what is working and what isn't working and what the problems they have the most of. So they have, we love it. And there's guys out there, and I'm sure them, the Willie G's in the world and the Freddies and all these wonderful guys.
Willie G yesterday. I tried to get him to come on. He's like, what do you want to talk to me for? Well, because you're Willie.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
He's thinking about it. I'll get him on.
Well, tell him me and Josh are both on. So he'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that guy. And if you need to, I'll send him a text. But get your ass on the damn podcast.
I'm trying to get Sean Payton.
Come on,
Sean Payton and I.
Dude,
John's a great guy. So I toured with him with Guns, and I just like the guy's great. He's like, no, I don't want to come on, but I'll bug the fuck out of him all the time. No.
Well, I can tell you that and both you guys know this from the guitar side or instrument side. A tech can be your best friend or your worst enemy. So they can bring you artists, go, yo, if they're on tour with another band and the guy's having a problem with his guitar company and that guitar tech likes you, he'll go, dude, you got to call my guy over at Dean. He's fucking rad. Right. Or they'll go, hey, I'm having a problem over at, Fender. What do you think of Dean? Oh, that guy's such a dick, man. Don't go there. Right. It could be either one. So it's so intertwined. And I think the other thing that is not a misconception, but both you guys know how small this industry is.
Tiny.
I mean,
and it's hard work, so you don't want to have any more struggles. You want to have people that it's like, hey, dude, it's me. How's it going? Oh, hey, yeah, cool. Yeah, oh, fuck yeah, we'll send it out to you right away. Oh, you want it easy. Aiden Mullen, these guys have been around for 5 minutes.
Aiden, oh my God, that guy is awesome.
Awesome.
So Aiden, I worked with him through when I was at Jackson and worked with Def Leppard, and outstanding. That entire crew of Def Leppard are second to none.
Yeah.
I mean, they take care of you because that when they call, you better answer because you're going to take care of them. And they're putting on a big machine. But Aiden Mullen, legend, awesome. Fucking Wookie, all those guys, dude.
Yeah. You see, that's what's kind of neat is like just bringing up the name. You got all excited because it's a small damn community, and you're like, oh yeah. It's nice. It's neat. So I love it for what it is. A fun question possible. What is the most random person who asked you for sponsorship or an endorsement? Like Barbra Streisand calling me like, hey, I've always wanted a Dean guitar. And you're like, whoa.
I got one. Miley Cyrus asked me at ESP to make her what they called a thin line semi-acoustic kind of guitars.
Yeah.
Actually, Billy Ray, her dad, Billy Ray Cyrus, called up first. Said, hey, I want to get this for my daughter. Can you get her one? We got her one. And I was really taken back by, I'm like, why here? These thin line type acoustics. I get Billy Ray Cyrus would want one left-handed, but when she got hers and she posted it online, I got death threats, and I'm not joking.
Really?
Because,
wow, no shit.
Yeah, I got death threats saying,
turn to the light side.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing, Miley Cyrus? So this is 2014, 2015.
So she was still Hannah Montana and shit.
Well, I mean, shortly after, she was twerking on stage at that point. You know what I mean? And like, so send that out. Next thing I know, oh, Chris Cannella's an asshole because he gave Miley Cyrus an ESP. I'm like, well, okay, hold on. We actually had to pull all the stuff down online of her playing our stuff because everybody at the company started getting so much hatred over it. And I never spoke to her. Her dad was really nice, though. Billy Ray Cyrus is a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Can't say anything bad about him. Never spoke to her. But boy, the hate mail was second to none.
Huh.
Those guys are pretty passionate, man. Those rock and roll guys, man. They're they're very passionate and very opinionated, and it's funny when
many an angry, achy, breaky heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
many.
And it's funny when you bring on or in our case, our very rare case, lose artists. Now with the internet, one of my favorite things is watching the comments. Like you bring somebody on, oh man, they're paying that guy. It's like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I mean, okay, yeah, we're paying the guy. Oh, he's only doing this because of this, okay. So I find that funny because I apply that to everything else, like on Instagram or Facebook or anything else. I read these comments, and even when I'm compelled to comment on something, I'm like, I probably had no fucking idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. Right, just based on the shit that when I actually knew what was going on.
Try starting a podcast.
Right.
Well,
oh fuck, I can't imagine.
I wouldn't do it. There's too many keyboard warriors out there that think. And the thing that I have learned though in my old age is that the keyboard warrior, every one of them, and I've said this at when I've been on panels at the NAMM show and whatever discussing stuff. Ignore the keyboard warrior because all they are is the guy that doesn't pay for music, he doesn't pay for guitars, and he sits in his grandmother's basement, who can't even have porn in the house because of however it is. He wears a cape, he sits behind his computer, and he's a disturbed, lonely person who is not a real fan or customer ever. Ignore the keyboard warriors. That's why I wish that some places like Blabbermouth would just remove the comments.
Yeah.
Remove it. What is the benefit of comment?
My favorite one in my book was the guy wrote, I've had a better time at Joanne Fabrics than reading this book. So I responded because Amazon let me, and I wrote, you know what? I personally like her stores, and I apologize, Joanne Fabrics, for having you associated. I like.
And based on that, I have to. Okay, go on.
They took them down. You can't reply now.
Oh,
I was like, that's fun. It wasn't being a dick to the guy. It was funny, So I thought,
shitty.
And then I had another one was, I've had a better time hanging out with child molesters with an S, and I'm thinking like,
oh my god,
fucking child molesters do you hang out with?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, let me call the cops, man. What the fuck?
Man. Some funny ones is Brett. So Brett made a film years ago, like something about death row. I can't remember what it was called.
Yes, yeah.
And if you read the reviews on that, they're fucking hilarious.
Oh,
they're really, really good.
Yeah, there is some funny shit out there, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, people are pretty creative. Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I mean, we went to Richmond for the NASCAR race last weekend. I got a couple of clients that are NASCAR drivers, and something had happened. There was an altercation, and there was a wreck or whatever, and there's a lot of hate, like, oh, you wrecked half the field, you suck, you should retire, I fucking hate your guts, all this shit. So I would go on Twitter and I would look up their profiles, and it's like 85 followers. I'm like, okay, it's considering the source on a lot of this shit too. It's like, for God's sake. I mean, some of it's funny. It does get old after a while, but you got to find humor.
It depends. If they're filling your inbox and with hate mail that Miley Cyrus, maybe something's got to get.
Yeah, if there's death threats, I think that's next level, man. For sure.
Yeah.
We made a guitar. Yeah, I'm sure she does. Yeah. Well, and then now you don't at ESPs, and if somebody gets killed over there, I mean, we don't want that, but I mean, you're not there.
Are you having fun with the NASCAR stuff? Is it nice to switch things up a little?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I've only had, and trust me, I mean, after 24 years at Dean, it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my entire life.
You know what we should do, Chris? We should get one of these NASCAR drivers to hit up Josh and be like, hey, I was thinking, could you get me a guitar?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that still happens.
I sent him to Chris. Yeah. I sent him to Chris. I go, hey, man, there's a couple of guys out on the circuit that want to play guitar. It'd be a good crossover. But it was, I started there when I was 20 years old, at Dean. And
okay. Actually, that was a question.
You
So you started with quality control?
Yeah, so I started in quality control, and when I moved to Tampa, I was trying to, I was an aspiring musician. So
Sure.
in those days, we didn't have internet. You had those old cork boards at the music store that a guitar player wanted. You had like the ads in the newspaper and shit like that. And so for me, I thought, how do you find band members? Right? I mean, I'm from Indianapolis. Tampa's a much bigger city, so I went to the biggest, baddest music store I could find, which was Thoroughbred Music at the time. For people that are old as I am, it was a groundbreaking small chain store, and I met a guy in the drum department. Because I needed a drummer, so I'm going to the drum department. I met this guy. We ended up starting a band. Anyway, he said, "Hey, the guy that owns Thoroughbred owns Dean, and they're looking for a quality control specialist to do guitar adjustments. Can you do that?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, no problem." I didn't know shit about doing that. Right. I was like, "I got this. No problem, man. Give me an interview." So when I started, we had 6 people in the entire company. And I didn't know shit about it. I completely bullshitted my way through the interview. I must have said the right things. When I started, my starting wage was $7, no, $6.85 an hour. Right.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And yeah, it wasn't bad. So it was 1997. So it wasn't bad. So I didn't know anything. So the other guy that was in quality control now is like a legendary guy, Dean, and in the guitar building business, a guy named Pat Baker. So who's amazing. If you don't know that name, look up Pat Baker Dean Guitars, and he's a very remarkable human being. One of the most talented guys I've ever met. So we had one of those long, like 10-foot folding picnic tables where the legs come out underneath, right? So he sat at one end and I sat at the other. We were sitting side by side. And I didn't know shit about adjusting guitars. So I would look over at him and I go, "Hey, man, I think I did this right. Will you check it?" And he go, "Oh, no, you didn't do it right. Here's how you do it." So he essentially taught me how to do it every day for like 3 weeks. And but we've been friends ever since. But in those days, there was only 6 of us. So we did everything. We quality control, we boxed up, we shipped, we did it all. And then I went to guitar assembly, where when the guitars would come out of the factory, we'd have to put the pickups in, strings, fret levels, do all that kind of stuff. And I did that for a long time. And then it got to a point where it was getting so big that we didn't have a dedicated artist guy, believe it or not. Everybody was kind of just piecemealing it. So Elliot Rubinson, the owner at the time, God rest his soul, said, "Hey, you tour with a lot of these bands. You seem to know a lot of these guys when they come in, and you're a pretty personable dude. We need an artist relations guy. Would you be interested in it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." I mean, I had the guitar knowledge and the personality part of it. What he was worried about was the business part. Like, can you manage this budget? Or are you going to fucking bankrupt me in 3 months? Right? I mean, what's the deal? So
like, maybe it might be happy.
Yeah, right. I mean, I make no guarantees. So he said, he goes, "Tell you what," he said, "I'll give you 90 days to figure this out. And after that, if you can't figure it out, then you just go back to doing guitar assembly." I said, "Fine." And there was 15 years of that. So I think I figured it out. But that was really all I knew. From 20 to 44 was all I knew. And it got to a point where I was getting older. I was going to be 45. I loved the business, but it was getting a little more laborious for me. Like, I was just like, "Man, I love this, but man, I don't want to be out till 3 o'clock in the morning." I'm just like, and it's hard, even at 44, 45. And I think, Chris, you can attest to this. It gets harder and harder to keep up with bands that are like 22 and 23, right? I mean, these guys are raging all night. I'm like, "Fuck, man, 10 o'clock, cool, dude." But so I just decided for me, it was time to do something else. And no hard feelings. I'm still on great terms with those guys. I mean, I missed the place for a lot of reasons, but the only other thing I really liked was racing and motorcycles, right? And so, I built this Rolodex over 24 years of all these people. I mean, guys like even like Post Malone and the guys like that toward the end, we gotten to know. And so I thought, man, I got to find a way to monetize this. And I had movie stars and rock stars and all these things. And I thought, man. And I already had NASCAR ties. So I said, okay, I'm going to do celebrity appearances, product placements, in like Yellowstone and like some of these TV shows, I have some contracts with. And then the NASCAR thing. And so it just became very natural. Instead of dealing with the rock stars, and dealing with race car drivers. And believe it or not, there's a lot of parallels. They have fan bases. There's a lot of people around everywhere. It's loud. It's dangerous. So all these things are very close to that. And,
cool.
Branching out to be an entrepreneur was something that terrified me, right? I thought, shit, I'm going to be collecting food stamps in 6 months, but it all worked out, and we're going strong, and so far the rest is history, but yes. I do keep my foot in the business. I do work with a management company called FM Management out of Chicago.
Okay.
And so I manage a couple of bands. I manage a band called King, and which I love. and I managed a band, David Vincent's band, Ultimus. He was, Morbid Angel, David Vincent. He's in a band called Ultimus, so I managed him. So I just took on a couple of bands just to keep my foot in the music business, because I do love it. I genuinely love it, but I just didn't love it to a point where I wanted to do it full time anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Well, you did a long time. I mean,
it was a long time.
So it's fun to change the chapter of the book too.
Yeah. Well, and it's I thrive on pressure and fear. So, striking out and leaving, out of my comfort zone are very familiar. You go to work and we work with guys you love, like Chris and Eric and Pat and Dan and all the guys back in the shop, to working for yourself, not knowing if you're going to make a penny or make $10 million. Right. Yeah. I'm still figuring that out, quite frankly. So it was terrifying, but it was dice I was willing to roll, and so far so good. Yeah. So, but everything I learned at Dean has translated to what I'm doing now. There's no way I'd be doing what I'm doing now without my time at Dean, which I'll cherish till the day I die.
That's cool. Do you guys have any fond memories of awesome parties back in the day? Any Pantera parties? Or any...
No, it's a lack of memories, man. It's an awesome party. It's a lack of memories. So,
dude, I'll tell you, this is really funny, and I'll say this. So we were at a music messa one year, which is like I don't know if they still have that anymore, Chris.
In theory, yes, but it is minuscule compared to what it used to be.
Okay. Well, in these days, it was a big show, right? It was
the biggest in the world.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was bigger than NAMM.
Yeah, it was massive, and it was in Frankfurt. So we took Vinnie Paul over there. And his crew. So it was like Vinnie Paul and his right-hand guy, Brydog, who I absolutely love. At the time, his security guy, I think, was Cowboy. This guy named Cowboy. He always traveled with a small entourage, right? Especially after Darrell was killed, just for safety reasons and stuff, right? I mean, you can imagine. So we're eating dinner at this Thai restaurant in Frankfurt, and they had these long tables. So we were sitting here facing like the back wall of the restaurant, and then there were tables this way. Well, the next table was Pearl. And he had just left Pearl to come to DDrum. Like literally, this was like our big European, he's going to be there signing autographs, that kind of thing. And I think it was Yakamoto, whoever the head of Pearl was at the time, the president, I think his name was Yakamoto. No, Gene Nakamura, that's what it was. And so he walks over, because Pearl was at the next table, and Vinny elbows me, he goes, "Man, it's Pearl." And I'm like, "What do you want me to do, man? Throw him out? I mean, we're all eating dinner here in this restaurant." So he goes, "Damn it." So we're sitting there, and Gene walks over and he looks at Vinny and he goes, "Winnie Paul, what are you doing here?" And he had his DDrum work shirt on. And Vinny looks at him and he goes, "Dude, I left Pearl. I'm with DDrum now." And the A&R guy at the time, I think, was Scott Ferris, whatever his name was. I can't remember. And no one had told the president of Pearl that they lost Vinnie Paul. Ooh. So Vinnie Paul looks. So the president of Pearl was like, "Oy." Like you could just tell, like he was ready to just fucking broke.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, right. So Vinny's like, "God damn it!" So he goes, "We got to get out of here," because all the president of Pearl did now, like, so I'm looking at you. He was looking at Vinny like this the whole time eating. Never took his eyes off Vinny. And Vinny's like, "This is the most uncomfortable shit. I can't take this." So he goes, "We gotta go, dude." So we left the restaurant and we ended up walking around Frankfurt. We're all shit-faced drunk. Walking around Frankfurt, we see this couple like banging in a car parked on the street. And we ended up it must have taken us an hour, but we made this huge square. We ended up right back in front of the Thai restaurant. And in the cab was the president of Pearl leaving in a cab, looking at Vinny like this. And Vinny's like, he's like, "I knew that shit would happen." Right. So, I mean, there's a million stories like that. I mean, and Chris, I'm sure you've got a ton. I mean, hanging out with the Pantera guys can go on for a year.
Yeah, I mean Pantera. I mean Sepultura used to live in Phoenix. I mean, it goes on forever. I mean, we've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So, some of the coolest party stories I have, I won't tell. It's like
Josh's young ears.
Yeah. Well, young.
We're like 3 years apart. I just, whatever. But no, I don't know. I mean, the only time I ever really hung out with Dime was at a party at the Sepultura house, and they were shooting dice on the floor, and he's like, "You ever shot dice?" I never met him before, and I was like, "Nope, never shot dice." "Well, come out here and give it a shot." threw down $20. He's like, "Hey, thanks." Took my $20 and left. And I was like, "Oh, that's it."
That's how you play dice. This sucks.
Exactly. I'm like, all right. I just lost $20, and that was at Paulo's house from Sepul, and they used to have the best parties over there, and at the Sepultura house. Especially at Paulo's house, Paulo and Goody, they had the house in Phoenix, and they always had this bucket, and it was always in the kitchen, and it's where people would stick their chew dip in it, or their cigarette butts, or they'd blow their nose in it, just like this bucket of muck.
I hope they kept that shit outside, man.
Yeah.
Well, right outside, it's right on the right outside the Arcadia door. So it's right by the kitchen, but right by the Arcadia door went right outside. And at the end of the night, whoever passed out first got the bucket on the face.
Oh,
so,
dude.
Yeah, it was gnarly. So, needless to say, I was never the first. Needless to say, I was never the first. I left before that ever happened. So, I saw it dropped on a few dudes. Grossest thing.
I want to meet the guy who had it happen night after night. That guy ain't too bright.
I'm sure
that shit happens. That shit happens more than once.
Oh,
I mean, Jesus. Yeah. And then Chris is right. I mean, there's so many good stories that, I mean, man, you just can't tell them. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like there's just so much, like, it's not even, a lot of it's salacious, but I mean, it's just shit that one, people probably wouldn't even believe some of the stuff, quite frankly. Right. It's like, wait, there's no way that happened. I'm like, I'm fucking telling you it happened, and then just, some of the people are here with us still and some aren't. Yeah. And, it's just one of those things that, I mean, man, there's so much. I mean, God, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I'm going to start laughing, but yeah, I mean, maybe if we have like a part where you can bleep out the name.
I know how to bleep now.
All right. Well, we'll do a separate one. We'll have party edition because I got thousands of stories. And I'm sure Chris does too.
Yeah, because I would just do the ones for just the roadies.
Well,
you guys know. I mean, hell, dude. Let me ask you the same question. Well, I mean, I'm sure you have some crazy ass after shows.
No, there's some good ones. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're in the same boat that we are. I mean,
I'm careful because sometimes you don't need to say the guy's name. It doesn't matter. It's still a great story.
Yeah, that's true. But that's
one of the things that Eddie Van Halen told me is like when Sammy Hagar put out his book, and there was a lot of slamming and shit talking in there. And I asked Ed, I was like, I asked him, I said, dude, does that hurt? Does it bother you? He said, yes and no. He's like, it bothered me because a lot of it was true and a lot of it wasn't. But the thing that bothered me was that it wasn't his story to tell. It was my story to tell.
So Dizzy Reed made me cut a great Axl story. It's like Dizzy has a couple stories that are my favorite things in the world. They didn't even cut them because he says it's Axl's story and not my story. I'm like, but you tell it so well, and I've heard it for years. It doesn't matter. That wasn't my moment. I'm like, Axl don't do interviews. And he's like, I don't care. Cut it. So I had to cut it.
I think Dizzy's still on the road with them currently.
Yeah, he's out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, he's one of my it's awesome.
Well, hey guys, I hate to be this dude, but is it all right? I do got to start dipping out. I am at home, and I do got to take care of some of the stuff domestically. But if we could do like a little wrap up, if you don't mind, I gotta.
Nope. Just that's a wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right.
I appreciate it. You guys stay in touch. You ever need anything, I appreciate it.
Dude, thank you so much for having us. And that was a great surprise having you here, bro.
Yeah, dude. And, we talked about it. He's like, man, you want to say anything? Nah, fuck it, man. It's just a surprise.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe by clicking the round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or the guests on the show, go to joelroadie.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle's Joel Roadie. And don't forget, when you party like a rock star, don't be a dick.